Hey, welcome back to Cash Keyboards. Today we're looking at the Kisnt KN104. That's right, Kisnt came out with another keyboard, and it's a full size this time. And 8 months ago, we reviewed the KN85, and it was a game changer. One of the best keyboards hands down this year in the budget price range. So let's see if the 104 can live up to the hype. So diving straight into the box, the first thing you're met with is your user guide. It's a handy guide to tell you about the keyboard and how to connect it wirelessly, to using things like function keys and changing RGB. So it's definitely handy. Set it aside so you can reference it when you need it. Next up, it looks like we have 4 additional switches, and it looks like they're using the Kisnt switches like they used in the KN85, which is super exciting because I really love these switches, and it's cool to have extras. Next up is your combination keycap and switch puller. It's your standard affair combination puller, but if you don't have one, it's nice to have, and it should always be included with mechanical keyboards. Lastly, we have our USB-C cable. It's a standard cable, nothing crazy here, it's not braided or anything, but it is a decent quality cable. It also matches the keyboard, which is a nice touch, and I also thought it was funny that it was held together with a little bread tie, but yeah, that's about it. That's all for the unboxing. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the keyboard itself. And here it is, the KN104. This is the answer to the KN85 except full size. And if you wonder what the KN85 looks like, it kind of looks like this. If you just covered up the right side and pretended it didn't exist. But all jokes aside, it is a full-size keyboard with a couple added bonuses, as you have some media controls here at the top, as well as a knob. And your knob actually controls not only RGB, but it also controls volume. Using the function key, you hold function and the knob for 3 seconds, and it switches back and forth between modes. So it's definitely pretty handy to have. But yeah, other than that, it is pretty much exactly the same as the KN85. Like colorway, keycaps, the feel, the sound, it really does feel like the KN85 just grew up to be a full size, which for me, I think is really awesome. It has a relatively similar weight, it's still made of plastic, it's all of the same things as the KN85 except just kind of full size. It's grown up a little bit. Now we flip it over the back. The design change on the back isn't exactly the same as the KN85. It is a bit different. I do like there's a little tag that says your receiver is here. You know, just in case you didn't know where it was and you were kind of new to keyboards. But also, while I was looking at that, I did notice a blemish on the backside here. Now this keyboard was unboxed during this video, so it wasn't like a me thing. But yeah, it just happens in manufacturing, but just note that it's there. Also here, I'm checking the flip-up feet. These flip-up feet seriously lock in place better than any budget keyboard I think I've ever used. Like, they lock up in place and they stay in place. Like, these do not move. Like, you have to forcibly put them down to make them go down, which is cool to see. Also, if you flip up your right foot here, you can actually access your wireless dongle, but it's nice that when you have the foot down, it kind of locks it in place so you don't lose it, which I think is a nice touch. Also, there's rubber feet everywhere on this, so you don't have to really worry about sliding around. We flip it up at the top edge, you can see that we have our wireless selector, as well as our USB-C, and then our Windows and Mac mode selector. This back panel is also held on by 4 screws, so I'll be interested in see if we need to take that off to actually get into the keyboard itself, which I guess we will find out eventually. Also, I did notice that there's some diffusion strips here on the side, to look like it diffuses RGB. I'm not sure, I haven't turned the keyboard on yet, so we will find out together. So yeah, the KN104, it feels solid. Like, it feels super solid. It feels just like the KN85, but the only way to know is to start taking it apart. So without further ado, let's jump into it and start taking this thing apart. So we'll start with our keycaps here. And as you can see, it's pretty much the same keycap as the KN85. They're yellow, they're PBT, and they're pretty alright. They're not the craziest keycap to write home about, but they're also not really bad. I did note on the legends here for the escape key at least, it looked a little more muddy than the other ones, but overall still not a bad keycap, pretty good for stock in the budget range. Next we're going to go ahead and pull out a switch, and as we can see, there was a bit of a struggle here. Like, this plate really holds these switches in, so just be prepared for that. But once you get it out, we are excited to see that the Kisnt switches have returned. I really like these switches, although there's no specific model that we can point to for these. We do think they're 45 gram linear switches, or roughly around the 45 gram mark. They are pre-lubed and they're very generously lubed, like they feel great, not an ounce of scratchiness, which I definitely love. These switches overall, awesome choice. But now we've seen those, it's time to dive further and keep seeing if everything lines up with the KN85. Alright, so now we have our keycaps off and switches out. The first thing to note is we have a flex cut polycarbonate plate, which is a bit different than the KN85 that had a solid polycarbonate plate. But all in all, relatively the same, just not exactly the same. But also checking our stabilizers, we can see we have pre-loop stabilizers and they are clip-in, which we love a loop stabilizers. We like when we don't have to go in and hand lube everything. So that's a nice touch as well. But I do want to note for your media keys here in the top right, you don't actually need to take those out. Those are slotted in and there are little micro switches underneath it. But we do need to take off our knob here, which you can just pry right off. And it just pops right off. It's actually a really easy knob to get off, surprisingly, since it's low profile. But yeah, just your standard knob affairs. You know what I'm saying. But anywho, let's go ahead and flip over our keyboard and we'll head to the back to pull out our wireless receiver because we don't want to lose it or it get damaged while we're taking apart the keyboard. So after a little bit of struggle with sausage fingers, we can go ahead and take that out. Now we'll also verify that we don't have any screws under our feet here. We just have some on the back panel, which we'll go ahead and take off just as a precaution because I don't know if we need to take them out to actually get into the keyboard. So, time to grab a screwdriver and go ahead and get this back panel off. Now I want to do note that while we do this, this is probably one of the most difficult keyboards I've ever tried to open. This took roughly an hour and a half-ish to actually get into because it's a difficult keyboard to open. And it's because the seams are so tight. So, which was actually a surprise, but to actually get in this keyboard, all you need to do is separate the front lip. So you'll need to grab a firm, tight grip and then pull towards you and up slightly to give a little gap for the front lip here. As soon as you have that little gap, then you can run a pry tool around the entire edge of the keyboard. Once you do that, you're in the keyboard. But do note that it takes some strength to get in this keyboard. It is not an easy feat. So if you're interested in getting this keyboard and then modding it, just make sure you know what you're in for. Just, you've been warned. But it can be done. Just have some strength and patience. And just to recap, we took the back panel off. Again, not entirely sure if I needed to take it off, but we took it off just in case. If you do take it off, remember the switches do need to go back in the same location that they came from with the switches in the direct orientation, so that way the selector is lined up with the proper selection. But yeah, other than that, now it's time to dive into the keyboard some more, and we'll take a look at the top of our case. As you can see here, it's a very flexible piece of plastic, which is kind of, expected since it's not attached to the bottom of the case anymore. Also here we can see that we have our micro switches that are under our media keys, and again, these don't need to come out or anything, but we can see them now. So let's go ahead and set our top of our case aside and keep diving into the keyboard. The next up is the thing that I really liked, and is the fact of the plate is not screwed into the PCB. This I absolutely love. I don't think the plate should ever be screwed into the PCB, and I don't like it when it is. So yeah, this is a big win for me. Also here you can see that we are gasket mounted, which is kind of your standard affair these days. Most keyboards these days are gasket mounted. It's kind of the go-to now. And then also on the back of the plate here, we can also see that we have our switch pad, film, and foam, which is all nice touches. If you want to run them, here they are. If you don't, you can take them out. So yeah, I always like when it's included, so that way you have the options. But all in all, it's really good offerings, but also it's a little different from the KN85. And the one thing that I really like that's different is the fact of you didn't have to unscrew the plate for the PCB for the 104. So I think that's a really good upgrade. Now we'll focus on our PCB. To take it out, we'll simply just lift up and flip away from us. Once you do that, you'll reveal the ribbon cable in the back. It's a pretty simple ribbon cable to get off, to be honest with you. You just flip up the little tab and you can take the ribbon cable out. Once you do that, the PCB is now free and you can do what you will with it. For us, we're actually just going to look at it, like we're doing now. As you can see here, we have 3-pin, 5-pin hot swap sockets. It actually looks like there was a couple different layout options. It looks like we have a split left option as well as an ISO option. And then if we flip over to the back, you can actually see that we have some foam adhered to the back. And when I say adhered to the back, let me tell you, this foam is pretty adhered to the back. Like it's pretty dang on there. So yeah, this is going to be one of those choices. Is if you don't want to run the foam, you can definitely take it off. But if you do want to run the foam and you're just experimenting, I'm not sure if you'll be able to take this foam off without ruining it. In my experience, to get this foam off without ruining this foam, you're going to have to go really, really slow. So here you can see we can start with an edge at the top here. And then if we go really slow, we can keep it intact. But again, I definitely advise that if you don't know that you want to run foam, I don't know if I would start by taking this foam off, just because it's really delicate. It's also not as thick as previous foams, so that's kind of a surprise. But yeah, that's what that looked like. We'll go ahead and set it aside and take a look what's underneath it. And surprise, surprise, the silicone pad is back. This has been super popular in a lot of keyboards lately. And honestly, I can't say it's doing a bad job. If you have a budget keyboard that's plastic, it really seems to be removing a lot of the hollowness sound out of it. But also underneath that, you have a 4000 milliamp hour battery for wireless, you have your daughter board for USB, and then you have diffusion panels for the RGB on the side. Now I did check, there for sure is RGB on the side here, as you can see down the side of the PCB, and that does include both sides, because you know, it would be weird if it was just one side. But yeah, it's both sides, and the thing that I definitely loved about them is the fact that they're screwed in. Because typically they're slotted in or slid into place and they'll fall out when you're trying to mod a keyboard. But yeah, cool touch. Also, again, the keyboard is flexible when it's fully taken apart because it is plastic. It doesn't have any like super low quality flex, as in like it feels brittle or it would break, but it just has your normal amount of flex for a plastic keyboard. But now that we've seen the entire keyboard, let's get the software set up, let's see what the RGB looks like, and then let's hear how it sounds. So to get the software set up, we'll head over to Kistnt's website, which is Kisnt.cn. We'll locate the product manual and driver tab, select that, and then you'll locate your drivers. For the KN104, we'll go ahead and download that and install it. Once installed, it brings you to the software, which is your standard affair. It's just like the KN85 software, and it's just like the majority of third-party software on the market. It'll bring you to the first page, which is your config page, and this is where you can set up any different key assignments. So if you want to change like the A key to say the number 1, we'll just select the A and then select number 1. And as you can see here, now the key function is a 1. If you want to default that back to an A key, you simply right click and then put it back to default. And as you can see, the A is now an A. You can also right click and change custom functions or disable keys as well. Now, if you do select custom functions, it'll bring you to a custom functions page where you can set a multitude of different functions, from key function to multi-keys to macros, which is pretty cool. Also on the config page, you can change between top layer and function layer, so you can change in your function keys. Next up is your macro manager. This is where you record in your macros, delete, export, import, rename, all that stuff. Definitely handy. Next up is your lighting modes. This is all your built-in lighting modes that you can switch between the keyboard. You can use the keyboard to actually switch this, so you don't need the software if you don't want to. But if you are in here, you can also change your lighting brightness, lighting speed, lighting direction, as well as your color palette if you want to switch between solid or full colorful. Next up is your user lighting for you to define your lighting and how you want it set up. Next up is your real-time lighting. This is like an event lighting. And then lastly, you have your music rhythm. So this is like a reactive lighting. And then at the bottom of the list, you have your system settings, and this includes your language, it includes your key response time, sleep time. You can disable things like Windows keys, Alt F4, Alt tabs, and you can also factory reset your keyboard as well. So now that we've seen the software, let's go ahead and take a quick look at just how the RGB looks, and then how the keyboard sounds. Alright, dimming the lights in my office, we can see the side lighting here, which looks pretty cool. And then the top-down shot like you're looking at it, which is also not too shabby. But let's hear how it sounds. So, what are my final thoughts? Well, we can start with the good. And that's it's a full-size mechanical keyboard that's at a budget. It's the fact that this keyboard comes in at $70, not on sale, just $70. And it comes with really quality parts, like fully lubed stabs, fully lubed B-Sun switches. The keyboard feels solid, and it's a true full-size layout. No compromises, no weird sizing, no nothing. So for people that wanted to get into the mechanical keyboard hobby, I think it's great because there's actually a traditional full-size offering that doesn't make them feel like they need to learn a new layout or make them feel weird about any compromises. So for me, that's definitely a win. Also, the added fact of most of the stuff lined up with the KN105, including a polycarbonate plate, the B-Sun switches, the lube stabilizers, the lube switches, the switch pad, switch foam, switch film, the wireless, wired version, Mac, Windows compatible. All in all, it's a great offering. And honestly, there's only a couple things that I really don't like about it. I mean, the main thing I don't like is, again, software. And that's just because I prefer to use VIA or Vile or QMK. I really don't think we need like dedicated software for the keyboard when there's already superior software out there that's web-based and easy to use and accessible to anybody. But yeah. And other than that, it's really just the fact I'm not a huge fan of traditional full sizes. But yeah, that's about it. Honestly, I think they might have did it again. It's the fact of like this area is kind of new with the full size and the full size Crave, and the fact that they're $70 prices them with all the other budget full size or full size adjacent keyboards, except theirs feels and sounds really good. Like I'm happy with a bunch of other ones, but this one like really hits the mark on sound and feel for me. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a bunch of other keyboards that sound okay, but they sound like a generic Thauky keyboard, to where this one advertises itself as a creamy keyboard, and it's one of the only ones that I actually think meets that, to where in sound and feel. Like, this really does feel like a creamy keyboard. So yeah, good job, Kisnt. I was really surprised. I thought the second version, when you came out with a full size, was gonna be kind of a letdown, but honestly, really, really happy with it. It works great. I've used it for gaming. I've been gaming on it for a couple weeks. I used it for work, and I've had no problems. It's just worked flawlessly. So the big question is, did they do it again? And honestly, I think they did. I think they killed it. But let me know what you think. Do you think it sounds good? Do you like everything it came with? Is there anything you don't like about it? Let me know in the comments below. I always love to chat about it. But also, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. If you could drop a like and hit subscribe, it would help the channel a lot. And if you want to check out the Kisnt KN104, the links will be in the description box below. And that's it, the end. Thank you for watching, and remember, keep keyboarding.